Welcome, distinguished guests. Thank you for being with us today. We are very honored by your presence. We've been very moved by the outpouring of love and support we've received over the past few days. On behalf of my family, thank you very much. My father always prepared, and he loved to plan. He was a man who paid attention to the details, as you've heard, but the one thing he did not plan was his own funeral. But I can assure you, looking across this sanctuary today and who is here, Dad would love every minute of this. This is an extraordinarily special event for him. I remember in 1992, a reporter looked at me and he said, "It must be tough to be the son of Ross Perot." I looked at him and thought, define tough. Because if you were part of our family, if you were in for an amazing adventure, one filled with unconditional love and lots of action with our Papa. And our family, he was our hero. Ross Perot had a strong set of values, and those values guided his actions. He was born to Gabriel and Lula Mae Perot in 1930 in Texarkana, Texas. Dad always said that the first big break in his life was being born to two loving parents. They taught him and his sister Betty the value of faith and family. In his youth, the Boy Scouts instilled in him a sense of duty. He earned his Eagle Scout rank at the age of 13, and he lived his life by the Scout oath. On my honor, I'll do my best to do my duty to God and my country, and to help other people at all times. Dad's next big break was acceptance to the Naval Academy, where he learned the value of leadership. He was president of his junior and senior class, brigade commander. The Academy also taught him the value of honor. He chaired the committee that wrote the Naval Academy's first honor code that is still in use today. These core values, faith, family, duty, leadership, and honor, form the foundation of his life that would impact millions of people around the world. The person who had the greatest impact on him was our mother, Margot Birmingham. They met on a blind date, and they married September 15th, 1956. A banker's daughter from Greensburg, Pennsylvania, and the son of a cotton broker from Texas, it was the beginning of a beautiful love affair. After finishing his service in the Navy, my parents drove to Dallas with all the possessions in the trunk of their car to pursue the American dream. Dad worked at IBM. My mother was a school teacher at Green Hill School. They lived in an apartment only a few minutes from this church. My first memories of those early days are Mom and Dad coming into our room that I shared with my sister Nancy. We would say our prayers each night together. Then Dad would give us a big hug, and he'd look at us and he'd say, "Buddies to the end." In those early days, my father became the top salesman for IBM. His focus and work ethic were extraordinary. He was a born salesman. Started at the age of 6 selling flower seeds, Christmas cards, and newspapers. He sold so much at IBM that they put a cap on his quota. I assure you, at all Perot companies, there is no limit on our sales teams. And my father would make that clear to them on a regular basis. And he would use a phrase from my grandfather. He'd say, "Sell it, you can't eat it." At age 32, with a wife and 2 children and $1,000, he started his own company, EDS. His vision was the technology services industry. He created a global new industry. At EDS, the recruiting motto was, "Eagles don't flock, you have to find them one at a time." He built his teams by recruiting directly from the military, because that is where he could find proven leaders, and he liked combat veterans. Dad always credited that early leadership team as being the key, the foundation to his success. As EDS started to grow, Mom and Dad's family started to grow. Suzanne, Carolyn, and Catherine were born. As children, we watched what one man could do. Ross Perot would not sit on the sidelines. He would enter the fight at full speed. We watched him in the arena as he came to the aid of the prisoners of war of Vietnam. He focused the world's attention on the plight of the POWs, and the North Vietnamese were forced to improve the conditions of our men. I remember a few years ago, former POW and Congressman Sam Johnson. Sam, thank you for being with us today. Sam was by to visit. We were going through Dad's museum. When Sam saw the photos of the prisoners of war, he looked at my father and said, "Without your efforts, I would not be alive today." In the 70s, as EDS was expanding around the world, Dad still prioritized being home with us for dinner. Sometimes he even brought the world home to us. I remember having incredible guests around our dinner table: astronauts, fighter pilots, business leaders, political figures, including Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, and Lord Mountbatten. Our lives were changed again in 1979, when 2 EDS employees were taken hostage in Iran. Again, Dad was in the arena. Winston Churchill had a famous quote, "Action this day." But even that was not fast enough for our father. As Pete talked about Ross time, Dad wanted action now. So he risked his own life to visit the 2 men imprisoned in Tehran. He also assembled a team of EDS volunteers, and under the leadership of Colonel Bull Simons, the men were freed and brought back home. It became the largest jailbreak in history, a legendary act. The story was told in the book On Wings of Eagles by Ken Follett. And Ken, thank you for being with us today. His life of service took a surprising turn in 1992 when he entered the arena yet again, this time running for President of the United States. He knew we could do better as a country, and he felt compelled to serve. Our family followed on yet another adventure. After the 1992 and 96 campaigns, he focused on getting his company, Perot Systems, into ship shape. It would become the second company he took public, a very rare feat. Just like all things he tackled in life, Dad focused on every little detail. When Dad met clients, he would give them his direct telephone number. He would tell them, "Call me day or night if you have any problems." I can assure you this, our team made sure Dad never received that phone call. Our father always taught us that financial success is a gift and a resource to help others. His generosity supported individuals and organizations in our community, nation, and around the world, including the Boy Scouts, the Perot Museum, the Meyerson, UT Southwestern Medical School, Salvation Army, extensive work on Gulf War Syndrome, Teach for America, to name a few. In honor of their mother, who fed those in need during the Great Depression, my father and Sister Betty became active participants in the North Texas Food Bank and donors. To honor our mother, my father also funded the Margaret Perot Hospital. In the past few days, we've been overwhelmed by all the news stories that we've heard about our father and what he has done. Many of these stories we'd never heard before. These were also the quiet acts, or the quiet investments my dad made in everyday people. Some were veterans, others just needed help or a compassionate hand. These quiet acts were the most valuable and most important investments my dad made, because through those efforts, our father improved the lives of thousands. My father was focused, he worked hard, and he also had a lot of fun. He never missed a chance to dance. Mom and Dad were always the last to leave the dance floor. He had a love of horses, a love of Texas, a love of all things fast. His practical jokes were legendary. And of course, my father loved to celebrate. You couldn't attend an event, no matter who was involved or what we were celebrating, without having him jump up and call for the 3 cheers. Hip, hip, hooray. Some of my happiest memories in life were spent on the water boating with my father. As soon as my dad could afford it, he bought our first lake house. I also remember going to the boat dealer to buy our first boat. It was used, of course, Dad loved a good deal, he loved to trade, and he only paid cash. Every Saturday on the way to Lake Grapevine, we stopped at Howard Johnson's for hot dogs and peppermint ice cream. That was a perfect Saturday for my father. The Navy gave Dad his love for the water, and as the years went by, his own fleet started to really grow. The boats got faster and they got louder. When the boats outgrew Lake Grapevine, we moved to Lake Texoma. Then we moved to Bermuda. He could not outgrow the Atlantic Ocean. Nothing made him happier than jumping the waves in a speedboat or pulling his grandchildren on a banana boat. The need for speed was year-round, as you heard from Pete. We had decades of wonderful memories skiing as a family in Colorado. Our father was always the first one up the mountain every morning and the fastest skier down on every run. And Pete, what you didn't realize, he was racing you, and in his mind, he was always winning. Whether it was boating or skiing or business, he loved to win, he hated to lose, and he once said, "There's no ribbon for second place." Dad never wanted to slow down. In February of this year, we learned we had a few months to go. The Lord gave us another 5 months with my father. During that time, he was still going to the office on the weekdays and the lake each weekend. He was surrounded by his family, friends, and wonderful, wonderful caregivers. Mom and Dad would spend their nights holding hands, watching classic movies, and Dad still wanted to dance with Mom. On our last trip to the lake, it was 3 Saturdays ago. I arrived a few minutes late, and I still got that look. On the way out, Dad insisted he had to stop and give Mom a kiss. At the lake, we sat together, holding hands, looking at the water. We did not say much. We did not need to. We had said all we could to each other. He sat in his father's rocking chair. He looked at photos of his mother and his father. My father, he passed away in peace. He was surrounded by his family, holding my mother's hand. Condolences have come from around the world as my father touched the lives of millions. From Zimbabwe, a family friend wrote, "The tom-toms will beat in our valley for the legend this weekend." My father had courage, character, integrity, legendary qualities, a true patriot. My father will be missed. He'll never be forgotten. Ross Perot did his duty to God, his country, his family, his friends. He helped other people at all times. His legacy will live through all that he has touched. Thank you, God, for this wonderful man and buddies to the end.